Hello and welcome to your ACCA Management Accounting course, and welcome to First Intuition if this is your first online course with us. This short video is looking at giving you an introduction to management accounting and the course as a whole, but most crucially is trying to give you some hints and tips to help you plan your studies over the next few weeks. As is the case with any ACCA exam, the key to passing is being well prepared. This is making sure that you have acquired all the relevant knowledge and the exam skills ahead of your exam, and this will make sure that you are confident going into the exam and hopefully can enjoy the real thing on the day. The first thing to consider is whether you've received all of your course resources. So as well as access to our online platform, FI Learn, you should also receive a physical copy or hard copy of your First Intuition course notes and your First Intuition question bank. Now, the First Intuition course notes are a chapter by chapter coverage of the syllabus. And in each chapter, you will have some dedicated illustrations and lecture examples which will show you how the examiner might test these different areas of the syllabus. Your First Intuition course notes are supported by a series of online lectures which are provided on FI Learn. This is the tutor walking you through the chapter content and walking you through the lecture examples. On screen you can see an image from FI Learn for the ACCA Management Accounting course. You are currently in the Getting Started tab, but as you progress through your course notes you'll be able to click into each of the individual chapters and access the lectures for those specific chapters. Your First Intuition question bank is broken down by chapter and contains exam standard questions for you to practice. In FI Learn you can see that below the chapter videos you have access to the online question bank, and further down you will then have access to a couple of question debriefs. These are videos of the tutor talking you through the answer to a question and highlighting some useful bits of exam technique. You can see not every question has a debrief, but the ones that do have an icon which flags that they have them within the question bank. Finally, you are also provided with some Test Your Learning tests. So these are additional exam standard questions which are grouped together on FI Learn as checkpoints. You can see that these checkpoints are after a series of chapters, so they are a good stopping point to see how you've got on up until this stage. You can try these tests as many times as you want, and it's quite useful to track your scores to see how you are improving. So in terms of approaching your studies, you're looking at first working through a particular chapter in your course notes. Once you've completed that chapter, you will then try the questions from the question bank for that chapter. Once you've completed the questions from the question bank, you can then try the Test Your Learning tests to see how much you've taken away. When attempting questions, it is really important that you never go straight to the answer. So give it a go and see how you get on. Trying the questions, seeing where you get stuck, will help you learn from your mistakes. The final useful resource which is provided to you on FI Learn is down at the bottom. You are given a Reference Resources tab. In here you have electronic versions of your course notes and question bank, but in addition you are also provided with a study text. This is the underlying detailed syllabus coverage. We wouldn't recommend working from this as your main source for studying, but it is a useful bit of background reading if there is a particular area that you are struggling with, as there could be some extra examples provided in here. But your course notes provide the key information that will help you pass the exam. For management accounting, we also provide you with an additional maths course, which gives you a little bit of revision on some of the core math skills that you may need to complete this content. So what will you be facing on exam day? Well, the management accounting paper is a 2-hour computer-based exam. And as it's 2 hours long, you're looking at about 120 minutes. The exam covers 100 marks. So effectively, this means that you are looking at 1.2 minutes per mark. The reason that I'm calculating this is that this is quite a time-pressured exam, so you will need to be making sure that you stay on top of your time and that you are incorporating this into your question practice and revision phase. Now, the exam itself is broken down into 2 sections. You've got section A, which are 35 objective test questions, and you've got section B, which is 3 multitask questions. So section A, when we talk about objective test questions, we mean multiple choice questions, and these are individual questions, each worth 2 marks. They are all or nothing, so that means that even if you're selecting multiple things within a question, if you get one of them wrong, you'd lose all the marks. If they are 2 marks each at 1.2 minutes per mark, you're looking at 2.4 minutes per question. Your section B is 3 multitask questions. And when we talk about multitask questions, we're talking about questions which have a short scenario and then a couple of objective test questions related to that one scenario. So each question is worth 10 marks. So you're looking at about 5 questions for each short scenario. Now, in terms of the styles of questions that you have, so we've got some more information down here. When we talk about them being objective test, so you have your standard multiple choice questions, select 1 from 2, 1 from 3 or 1 from 4. You've got multiple response, which means you're selecting more than one of the options that is provided. You've got a matching question, so link different answers together. You've got number entry, so do a calculation and then fill in the number. You've got gap fill, which is entering into blank spaces, so fill in the blank. And then you've got hotspot, which is where you're potentially choosing 1 or 2 more areas on an image, so maybe on a graph, for example. So lots of different question styles that you will be exposed to. And these questions can come up both as objective test questions and part of your multitask questions. The ones that are specific to multitask are your gap fill and hotspot. The overall pass mark for the paper is 50%. So you need to score 50% to pass management accounting. Please note that under the Getting Started tab, we have an additional bit of guidance on how to book your exam. This is something that you will need to do by yourself, and FI are not involved in this process. Now that we've talked about the different styles of questions and what to expect in the exam, it's important to think about how you're going to pass this exam. And with any accounting exam and any accounting qualification, the key to passing is question practice. So you need to be trying as many questions as possible. So to give you exposure to the styles of questions that the examiner could ask you, so multiple choice, multiple response, to see how a particular topic could be tested, and to try and make sure that you complete those questions within the required time. So this is about acquiring exam skills. So in order to get enough question practice, as a minimum, you should be attempting all of the questions in the question bank. And try to do them under timed conditions. So see if you can complete a an objective test question within 2.4 minutes. Beyond this, we also provide you with a mock exam, which we recommend completing under timed conditions. We've done a lot of research over the last couple of years about the importance of mock exams, and it has been found to be one of the key determining factors in whether students pass the real exam or not. So even if you don't feel ready to take the exam, it is really useful and a good learning experience to do a mock exam and potentially repeat it closer to the exam day to see whether get a feel of what an actual exam feels like. I would add that it does not add a lot of value, particularly at the revision phase, to spend lots of time looking at your course notes. These exams are very practical, so this is really about looking at you applying your skills, and just looking at your course notes is not going to help you do that. We have one more thing that will help you practice with, and that is the ACCA Specimen exam. The ACCA Specimen exam is really important for you to have a look at. So this Specimen exam is actually provided by ACCA on their website. It is really important that you try it because you will be able then to use the ACCA exam software. So you won't have a shock on exam day of what this will look like. And we provide you a link to the ACCA Specimen exam in FI Learn, but you can also access it directly through the ACCA website. So what is management accounting? And I think management accounting is actually a really useful and interesting course because it looks at how we run a business. So it looks at what are the things that we do to help us achieve our organizational goals. So it looks at things like planning, so setting budgets, controlling, so making sure that we're actually meeting those budget plans, and also generally monitoring business performance. So how well are we doing? And your management accounting course is broken down into 6 syllabus areas. So the first syllabus area is looking at the nature, source and purpose of management information. So what is management information? Why do we have it? How is it useful? Secondly, we look at statistical techniques. So this is where some maths comes in. So how do we analyse data to make it meaningful? So that's the second part. We then turn to cost accounting. This is a really significant part and a large number of chapters in your course notes. So cost accounting is looking at how do we attribute costs to a particular unit. You'll then look at budgeting, which is looking at planning in the organisation. So how do we come up with a budget? You'll then look at standard costing and variance analysis. So this is the control part of management accounting. How have we done against our budget? And finally, we're going to be looking at measuring and monitoring performance. So have your profits increased or decreased, and what does this mean? So 6 key areas of your syllabus. And management accounting is a feeder paper. So it's a paper that will be useful to you in several later exams. First crucial one is performance management. Everything from management accounting is assumed knowledge for performance management, which is a skills level paper. You will also use some of your knowledge of strategy when you get to what's known as Strategic Business Leader, or SBL, which is one of your professional papers. And if you love management accounting, you might opt to do Advanced Performance Management as one of your option papers later. But you can see that there's several places that you're going to be using this content, so worth getting these fundamentals right. We've also provided you with a study planner. This is effectively a guide for how long we think you should be spending on each subject. Now everybody is different, so I would caveat that it may take you more or less time than what is specified in the guide, but what this hopefully helps you to do is to set a minimum. So I would set as a minimum amount of time 41 hours aside to complete this content. And this is just completing the content. You will then need some extra time for final revision and getting ready for the real exam. So this is just a ballpark to help you plan ahead. So how does the study planner is sort of structured? Well, we've given you some information in the Exam Smart down here, and key things to sort of notice is that we have given you a kind of traffic light system to show you which areas usually take a little bit longer. You might need to spend a little bit more time understanding. So these are our red areas and amber areas. And then our green areas are hopefully a little bit easier to sort of assimilate and understand. As another reminder, keep doing questions. So every time you complete a chapter, go back to the question bank and attempt some questions. I would recommend doing questions with debriefs first, so the ones with the icons. Do those first so you have a go at them, watch how the tutor would do it, and then have a go at some of the other questions in that chapter. So here we've got the structure of your study planner, and what you can see is we've broken it down by each of the different chapters. You've got chapter 1, chapter 2. We've given you a very brief summary of what is in the chapter. So chapter 2 is on statistical techniques, so it tells you here to expect some maths. It's given you that this is probably one of the harder chapters, so to dedicate a good amount of time and focus when doing this chapter. It's given you a suggested amount of time against it, and then it's told you which questions we think you should attempt to support your knowledge once you've completed that chapter. Further down, you can see we've incorporated the checkpoints as well. So after you've completed several of the chapters, you can then do these test your learning tests to see how well you remember the information from these earlier chapters. We've also incorporated some of the multitask questions against the chapters and syllabus areas that would have multitask questions attached to them. So once you've completed your syllabus coverage, which means you've gone through all your course notes, you've attempted the questions in the question bank, you've attempted the test your learnings, you're now ready to move on to revision. And revision is effectively extended question practice. And I can't stress enough, the more questions you do, the more you repeat, the more likely you are to pass your exam. So as suggested, we say to go back and do the checkpoints again. So do the questions in your checkpoints again. Attempting the test your learnings, seeing whether you've improved against your original score. Also, finishing any of the question bank questions that you didn't do. You're now ready to see where you're at. So the practice assessment on FI Learn is lots of different areas of the syllabus covered through one assessment. We expect you to complete this to time and to do a full debrief. But again, this is a learning exercise and is trying to help you identify where you have gaps in your knowledge and potentially which areas you need to focus on during revision. So once you've completed your practice assessment, you will now redo every single question in the question bank under timed conditions. So we are expecting you to do your question bank at least twice. If there are questions that you are getting wrong, even the second time round, then we would expect you to do them 3 times. Repetition is key. Learning from your mistakes is key. This is what will help things stick in your mind in the run-up to the exam. So it's really important that you understand why you are getting questions wrong. So go back and do your checkpoints, do your practice assessment, try your question bank at least twice, and once you've done all of that, you're ready to then take your mock exam. Again, the mock exam is a learning experience. Try it under time conditions. See what areas you're still struggling with. The final section of your study planner just talks you through your practical experience requirements, so what you need, and what are the essential and technical objectives that are covered off by this paper. The only thing left to say then is good luck with your studies, persevere, and hopefully we'll see you again on another First Intuition course.